Okay, so this is lecture 5 or not. We can start and I'll revise it. Okay. So, if you remember, we were talking about the last glacial maximum, which happened around 20,000 years ago. That's when the ice sheets were much farther. They extended much farther southward as compared to now, because in north back then it was just the North Pole that they were there, and alright. So this is from the book Rudiment, chapter 13. Most of the lecture 4 that I'm talking about is from this chapter and the next chapter. So, what was the last glacial maximum like? If I tell you in terms of the extent of ice sheets, just thought I'll just pull this out and show you that the ice sheets were as high as 2 kilometers in Canada and most of the northern United States, northmost Europe. Like, so basically, where we have ice sheets now, they were extending more on the continents also, in the northern pole, North Pole. And global sea level was also lower, one because most of the water is now, on continents. And so it was 120 meters lower. So you can imagine why, when we came back from the LGM period to current warm period, why those chalk cliffs that we were talking about or we showed, why they were exposed, because the sea level was dropped. Present day sea level from this period has dropped about 120 meters. So that's why the regions, the, actually, this was the time when the sea level was lower than 120 meters, and so in fact the regions which are now underwater, I was saying it the conversely. So the regions in Southeast Asia, for example, Indonesian islands and all, which are now underwater, which are just sort of, there are many little islands, but at that time, because the sea level was so low, that time it was a shelf, or it was a complete sort of a plateau, uh, um, like continent, or not continent, but a landmass, I would say. So, because it was 120 meters lower. So in this lecture, and which will mostly continue after your Diwali break, I would talk about what caused the extent of um, ice to what it was in the last glacial maximum. Remember, this happened about 20,000 years ago. Looks like a long time, but then if you focus on the longer periods that we have already talked about, glacial, interglacial, this is not too far back in time. And so, what factors really did cause such large scale changes that the sea level was lower 120 meters than present day? And in case of the LGM, summer and winter insolation was same as today. So if it was same as today, so that means the external forcing was not playing a part, right? So what changed such that the right now we don't have this much of ice, and back then we had so much of ice 20,000 years ago. So there's something called boundary conditions. So boundary conditions actually goes in the climate models when we look at when we try to simulate future um, climate conditions and also for climate predictions. So basically, when we are running the climate model simulations, we specify boundary conditions for the climate models, and uh, and in this case, the boundary condition, and usually the boundary conditions are these. So we'll have to specify. So for example, if I want to extend the climate simulations forward in future, we would have to specify what CO2 levels are we starting from currently, right? So CO2, so if I ask you what are the boundary conditions, you'd have to look at CO2, you'd have to look at ice sheet extent, and you'd also have to look at the solar radiation changes versus today. And we say today it's mostly the pre-industrial level, but then because from there on it's not natural, it's atmospheric, it's anthropogenic. So, but these three are the boundary conditions that we essentially should know. Okay, so what you see here is time on y-axis and the boundary conditions plotted on the x-axis, and you also have solar radiation. Now in orange, this is the solar radiation, how insolation has changed over time. So in the last 20,000 years, how it has changed for winters and how it has changed for summers. So it has increased and decreased, as you can see. And if you remember, when we were looking at the monsoon changes and how monsoon was at its peak around, the early this period, 10,000 years, lake level data we were looking at, you might not remember, but that is when the solar insolation was, or summer insolation was at its peak, such that the land ocean thermal contrast was very high and monsoon was, so you can now relate that how versus present day, this is zero, that's where you are, that's so it's all relative versus today. So it was back around 10,000 years ago, it was 30 watts per meter. We were receiving 30 watts per meter square more insolation or summer during the summertime, northern hemisphere, as compared to present day. Okay? Right? So if I ask you, and then I'll talk about Holocene after the LGM, because from the last glacial maximum we are going to, after the deglaciation we will start in relatively stable conditions of the Holocene. So I'll go into Holocene later, but this is just to show you or tell you how the summer insolation has changed over time. Right now we are here, but back around 20,000 years also we were here, right? It's not too different from what we were around the LGM period. So what changed really? Because the insolation is similar, both winter and summer. So summer insolation and winter insolation are plotted here. CO2, if we look at, what is the CO2 like? Let's just look at the present day CO2 and the CO2 levels back then. It's low or high? We are looking at LGM conditions here. 18 to 20,000 years here. Last glacial maximum is around this time. CO2 levels कम है ज़्यादा है present day से?
CO2 is that green line?
Yes. So CO2 is green. Currently it's here. Okay. Actually it's It's even 400. It's even further. But I think this is pre-industrial that they've taken. Right? और उस समय इतना था, less था. This is the period we are looking at. Green is CO2. CO2 has gone like this. It was sort of stable during the LGM and then started to increase. And we'll talk about deglacial period later. And then we went into a rather stable period of all of this is natural climate variability. Human climate variability starts after this, like that, exponential. That we'll talk about also. Okay? This is CO2. Let's just look at CO2 with time. CO2 axis. Okay? Increasing this way. This zero might be confusing. The zero is for ice sheet. Okay? This is ice sheet. It's increasing this way. This is a confusing part. Now I realize it. Okay. Yeah? So CO2 was much lower. So lower greenhouse gas would make it colder. Right? Lower greenhouse gas would make it colder, and then when the greenhouse CO2 start to increase, for whatever reasons, we'll look into that. The maximum ice sheet extent, the maximum glacial extent, started to wane, and we went into this is the deglacial period, and we went into a rather warm sort of climate. The idea from this figure is that at this point, the solar insolation today and back then are summer insolation, not much of a difference, right? But it's the other boundary condition that played a role, such that the ice accumulation was rather high, and CO2 at that point was not that high, which kind of played a role in the climate model simulate glacial maximum climate by using larger ice sheet. So to produce those kind of response in terms of the those kind as in they extended the ice sheet up to mid Europe, most of the North America covered in ice. So the last glacial conditions, what they found was the lower levels of greenhouse gas as boundary inputs would, even though we know that the solar radiation was similar, these would lead to changes that would make let the Earth go into the glacial maximum, which is what it is. It was like some 20,000 years back. So again, these are all simulation results, and for the past 21,000, and let's look at it in detail. I think it would be clear if I bring the deglacial part also. So we'll talk about these. I'll talk about these in parts. You'll see this figure coming in again and again, and we'll talk about how from this it has moved to and then I'll talk about the deglacial part, and then actually just here, and then the Holocene when the CO2 levels are rather stable, and insolation is also declining. So this period, as opposed to this, insolation is changing very quickly as compared to present day. You have ice melting, and also CO2 increasing very fast. So this is when the ice sheets began to kind of wane away, and all of these factors were involved. Not just the insolation, which was in this case very similar. Insolation was as compared to present day, but this period as compared to present day is very different, right? You had ice sheet melting, you had CO2 increasing, you had insolation changing. So last glacial maximum is used as one of the baseline condition, where because you have insolation as insolation is same as today. So when we run climate models, the main problem that, or one of the major issues that when we face is, what do we take for the boundary condition? CO2 we understand that we can measure, and right now, so we know what it is. Insolation we also know, but if we have a baseline data for example like this, or for a condition in the past where at least we know that the solar radiation were similar, you would have less variables to play with. and which is why LGM is taken as one of the baseline conditions when we start simulating data for future predictions. Okay. So I think in this chapter you would have you, in this chapter you'll see many examples. I've not taken them in detail on the slides, but when you have most of the land covered with ice, you would imagine that and also very less water in the seas, right? Remember 120 meters lower sea level, less water for the hydrological cycle to work. Um, the lands are drier. Monsoon systems are very weak. So this period, all around the world, where there was no ice. So for example, the glacier extent was up until here, which right now it's not, right? All of Canada and the regions where there was no glaciers or ice, they were dunes because it was all dry. Very less sea levels lower, very less water moving in the atmosphere. So these are classic examples of glacial maximum. Loess are all wind blown deposits. We've read about these in the archives chapter, and archive lectures. So winds picked up sill size, so rather bigger size material, and deposited as loess downwind of these sources. So yeah, so loess are these kind of deposits. If we find, we would think that these were, and if we date them, they would come out around 18 to 20,000 years ago back. So you would imagine that that's when they were deposited. And similarly, the sand dunes extent. Where is India? India is here. So sand dunes active today. It's mostly the interior Thar Desert where sand dunes are active. But back then, the extent was so the Thar Desert margins were rather sort of expanded because again of the weaker monsoon and less water, less moisture circulating. Okay, so drier climates and stronger winds created more extensive sand dunes all around the globe. And yeah, this is again example, but I would not talk about it in detail because this is more from the North American side. But for us, it's important to know that the monsoon would be weaker or stronger during this time for the Indian subcontinent or people living in the tropics. If I ask you what were the conditions like, monsoonal conditions like in the early Holocene or last glacial, LGM, was it strong or weak? Monsoon, similar, like simple. Like let's talk about. So I'll talk about it in terms of tropics. So LGM condition. Were there ice in India or glaciers or in India? No. But how would I know that it's LGM in India or the Southeast Asia or tropics? What would be impacted? Right. So it would be the hydrological cycle that would be impacted around the equator, right? So there's very little water because most of the water is as ice and glaciers. So very little rainfall. And how is it sort of manifested? Sand dunes, right? So higher extent of desert. So basically, like an exam, if I ask you, can you compare monsoon around LGM, or how did the tropics respond to LGM as compared to the early? So 10,000 years. This period is called the Holocene. I'll talk about it in detail later, but this period. So this is the period, if you remember, we were looking at the curve of insolation. That's just the top part of it, and this was the high, and there was a threshold running around, and there was a high lake levels in Africa. Anybody remember that curve? Yeah. So this is that part. So this is when the monsoon was really strong, very high summer insolation, and then it started to monsoon also started to kind of decline following the insolation. So I mean it wasn't as smooth as the insolation because other factors also play a role, but this was the peak. So if I ask you to contrast, you would expect really high strong monsoon in this as compared to this when the it would rather be a drier bit.
Ma'am, if we compare the summer insolation, so like at zero, basically, which is like the present,
Yeah.
uh, years back, like let's say 15,000 or at last LGM,
Yes.
around 18,000 years ago,
Mhm.
then like the summer insolation is stronger, right? So then like still compared to that. So when we are talking about, let's say during Holocene, that 10,000 years ago, summer insolation is higher and that had better monsoon, then how can we say that during that time deserts were there and the monsoon was weaker or something of that sort? It's still larger than that, right? If
So
higher
you
insolation
mean this
implies,
part here?
yeah, higher insolation implies more monsoon.
There are other conditions also.
Alright.
There are other conditions also. In this case, see, there are other conditions also, which is this. There was a lot of ice, which is this CO2. You compare the CO2 levels at this point, 18,000 you said, and at this point, let's say, or wherever,
Alright.
right? So
all
it's an
these factors influence
interplay
that.
of these boundary conditions.
Alright.
Okay. And ice, there was a lot of ice, so most of the water was there as ice, not
Water very.
yeah. So that's why these three boundary conditions are very important when you're looking at the deglacial climate.
Alright.
I actually didn't today. I did not read. Didn't get time. I had a back-to-back meetings, but I did not. Usually, I read the chapter and come, and now I don't remember what I wanted to tell you from last time. But I've told you from what I remember of LGM, but I'll just go through the chapter again, and in the next class I'll just see if I'm not missing out on anything important that I wanted to teach.
Ma'am, which is the deglacial period and which is Holocene?
So Holocene starts at around 10,000, 11,000. Like it's a sort of a range, and even LGM, like I said, it's a range. So this is where it starts. We are in the Holocene period right now. So from 10,000, roughly, if you say 11, 10,000, it starts. So I can say from here to present day. Deglacial is when we are from this to this, basically this to whatever this period. Okay, after LGM, deglaciation means that the glacial is ending. You're coming out of it, and the way it came out, CO2 started to increase. And like I said, I'll read the chapter. I'm missing out on a few points that I wanted to say, but from the this figure, you can see that ice extent on ice sheet extent on global ice sheet extent started to decline, and to present day. Again, this is all relative to present day. Remember, so it doesn't mean कि अभी zero ice है. And it's all relative. And okay, I do talk about monsoon also in this, and that's the Holocene actually. There's a so like I said, 10,000, 11,000, roughly like that. Holocene starts to present day. So we are in the Holocene right now. So this is all early Holocene where this plays a major role. Early Holocene to, I mean, they marked it for this, but this it starts around 10,000, and in this case, ice sheets do not play a major role after this point. CO2 is rather um, same, and it's the insulation changes that impact the climate, and after this point it's the anthropogenic CO2 changes. But Holocene, in terms of the large scale climate change, is a very stable period. We are in a very stable period, and that's when the human civilization started, erupted, because it's a very stable period in terms of CO2, in terms of ice sheets, insulation. Yes, it's changing, but not to the extent that it would be devastating for um, civilizations and life forms in general. Okay, I'll talk about all of these in a bit detail. Okay, and any questions so far? Okay, let's just not look at this figure. Let's look at this figure for now. ये एक बार देख लेते हैं. August ocean temperatures and 21,000 years ago. So this is LGM. Okay, simulations, climate simulations. Of course, there are errors. But what is this red band indicating here? Let's look at the north. Why is there warming? Let's look at North Atlantic, for instance. Here. Why is there a heat build-up around in the North Atlantic? Not North Atlantic, in the Atlantic, Southern Atlantic, sorry. Not North Atlantic. This is Greenland, North America, this is Pacific, Australia, India, and also you see that there is Malaysia and Singapore and other, but then this is all exposed. Okay. Yeah. Can you think of a reason why there is a heat buildup? Where does usually the heat? How does the heat move around on the Earth system? How do you? Huh? Low pressure. thermohaline and atmosphere, right? There's high pressure, there's low pressure. How does it balance out? Winds moving, ocean currents moving, right? And thermohaline is what really balancing it out, right? You know, you have water sinking, but are the water sinking now? No, which is why most of the these regions show red, 15, 20 degrees warmer. So, and even if they're warmer, the monsoon and actually because they are warmer, the hydroclimate or the monsoon circulation was very weak, because you would expect the ocean to be rather cooler, high pressure, land warmer, and so this heat build up, thermohaline circulation was really sort of slow, and this heat was built up.
This is for the LGM.
Yes, that's LGM 21,000 years ago.
There was no water sinking because all was frozen.
Yes, water was frozen, and yeah, it's mostly I think sea ice that was there, and yeah. So LGM is if you look at monsoon record, LGM is one of the driest period for the most recent driest period. I mean, there are dry periods in between, but most recent, and the reason is that the thermohaline circulation was very, very weak, such that and also most of the water was trapped away as ice sheets. Okay. So if you go through the chapter, I'll read the chapter again and see if I've not missed out anything. But it's mostly examples from, so how large were the ice sheet? They have, looked at, again, these are all model experiments, climate reconstructions, but they've looked at how thick the ice sheets were, 3 kilometers. So internal in the continent, they were thicker as compared to the ones on the coast, as you would expect. And then there are examples from biotic data, but mostly from places where there were ice sheets. So for us, it was again from mostly North American region, Canada, and this is an example. Pollen, they look at pollen, how pollen population has changed since then, or how vegetation has kind of picked up after the glaciers started to melt. And so yeah, most of the examples are from North American region, but for us, what is really important to look at is to look at it from our Indian perspective. And yeah, I now remember that in this chapter it's mostly from Indian perspective, it's mostly the monsoon and the impact on the hydrological cycle in the tropics. Okay. So I'll talk about that a little bit, and then deglaciation in the next class. Okay. All right. Any questions? so far? Then, okay. I next quiz is on 8th of November. Okay, so if you want to lectures I've already uploaded on YouTube. Lecture 3 and 4. That is the syllabus.
कितने लेक्चर हो चुके हैं?
दो नहीं लेक्चर तो एक ही दो ज़्यादा नहीं हुए. We have not missed much. But usually I teach. I mean, even though they are called lecture 3 and 4, there are a number of slides that I've covered, matlab, through many lectures. So I think I've not taught much from when you stopped coming. Any question you can ask me. Mostly from the book.